Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another round of the Grand Prestige League. It is time for the penultimate round of the championship as we get ready to rock and roll here at Deep Forest Raceway. We are here at the fantastic Swiss venue as we go ahead and get ready for what is set to be an action-packed thriller of a race day. As it sits currently, it is going to be a very good run here today as we go ahead and just get everything situated. Penultimate round here as we get underway here very, very shortly. And I'm honestly looking forward to it. It's going to be, this is a very tricky and unique track. Dirty Air is going to be really tough throughout Sector 2 with the S's. This was the home of the 2025 Super Formula 500, and we are going to have to go ahead and see where the 2026 SF 500 is going to be. So, it'll be myself, Patrick Coleman, aka Breakfast, and I'll be one of your hosts and commentators for today's session. We may beat 23 in. I'm not sure. 50-50 chance I might be running this one solo, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah, so I have unfortunately not heard from B23 here, but hopefully he is around. I know the race does start at kind of an early-ish time for him, so I understand, but let's go ahead and take a look at the championship standings just to kind of see how the championship is currently playing out here. So, as we get to the tail end of the season, which is crazy to think that in about 3 weeks from now, we'll be done here with the Grand Prestige League. So Season 7 is about to be done and dusted. Right now, Whiteout does have a pretty good lead out of Illusion. I believe those two are the only two still mathematically within contention for the championship. So we're going to have to just wait and see here. We'll wait for the official results, but as it sits, Whiteout is currently the favorite to be the champion of the world here, once again in the Grand Prestige League. Exo and Spectre Acura Racing are going to be the two main championship protagonists in terms of the constructors. They're the only teams, I believe, that are still also within mathematical contention. So we're going to have to see how it rolls. We're going to set some stuff up here on the back end. We should have B23 here very shortly as we get ready to go here. Deep Forest is a unique track. It's a track that you'll pretty much find nowhere else outside of Gran Turismo. So, very unique circuit. I mean, you can find it with a set of course of mods, obviously, but it is still a very unique circuit compared to a lot of the others that we visited on here. Deep Forest is one of the original Gran Turismo venues, and it has been around for quite some time, in the Gran Turismo space anyway, originating from the original Gran Turismo, where it was a 2.2 mile long circuit, 3,580 meters long, so 3.58 kilometers around in length. The track did actually get bumped up to a much bigger layout. It is now currently I can't get mathematics right today. It is 4.25 kilometers around, 2.64 miles, as there has been a lot of things that have been straightened on this racetrack. It has 18 corners, and we are running the regular layout here today. So some good overtaking opportunities on this racetrack are from the runs of turn 14, from turn 14 all the way to turn 18, coming down into turn 1, and of course the massive run through the tunnel from turns 10 all the way to the aforementioned turn 14. So we're going to go ahead and jump on to the racetrack now and just run through who we have here today. We have Viper, we have Whiteout, we have Nuco, who the Toyota team is still running that French World Cup inspired livery. And then we have King, Dennis, May JP, ASJ running back with the Porsche Project Zero team. High Caliber Racing running a new livery here this weekend, a very striking one at that. And then we have Tallman, Lusion, Alex, Rogue, and the like. So King is here as well. We cannot forget about King. Dennis jumping up for the LFO roster once again. So we're just going to see how everything does pan out here around this circuit. Yeah, this circuit, like I said earlier, has been around for a very long time. It has been around since the original Gran Turismo, and I believe it has made an appearance in every Gran Turismo game with the exception of GT Sport. It has been around in every other iteration of Gran Turismo, and for good reason. It's a fan favorite track, the drivers love it, and it is ultimately just one of the top tier circuits in GT history. As we go ahead and get things going on around here, I want to say a massive hello to everybody who is in the YouTube chat, and I also want to say a very nice hello to B23 who is now here with us. How you doing today, mate? While he is doing that.
Okay, I should be audible now.
There we go. I believe we have you.
Hello, everybody.
So, what are your thoughts here on this Deep Forest Raceway track?
Well, it is a good track. I do like this track. It is, on paper, if you take a look at the map layout, it looks and feels kind of similar to Trial Mountain. However, it is actually much different in practice with these cars in particular. The Trial Mountain had some of the highest downforce levels we had seen all season, and I believe Deep Forest is going to be on the lower end despite that really tricky and tight first sector. The longs are just, or the straights rather, are just so long that I don't think it makes up for it. So I think we're going to see a lot less downforce ran here today.
Yeah, exactly that. It's going to be really interesting just to kind of see how the setups operate. And yeah, I mean, yeah, you do have that very tricky technical sector, but like you said, the straights are so powerful here that it is, you're better off just kind of sacrificing that middle sector, because there's two real approaches you can take to this track. You can either A, sacrifice that middle sector, that alligator mouth if you will, and just kind of get the benefit from the straights, or you can do vice versa, sacrifice your straight line performance for that middle sector. But here's the thing, you really wouldn't run that second option because just comparatively it's such a small sector of racetrack. It's like saying you're going to run a Monaco style setup specifically for, you know, Ascari around Monza, or specifically for sector 2 of Bahrain, when you have a bunch of straight line areas that you get a lot more speed off of.
Right, exactly, and especially because there's an extremely long straight followed by a very sharp hairpin, and then the next long straight right after, and so the acceleration out of that is going to be crucial. It's going to be very important that these guys are very disciplined on their gas pedals when they come out of these corners, because despite the appearance of very high speed, especially approaching through that first sector, it's not very high speed corners in a sense that it relies on the downforce so much. So these guys are going to have to be very, very disciplined on their pedal work, and it also just goes to the point about the downforce as well. It doesn't require as much downforce if they can really nail the pedal work and keep all the mechanical grip going.
Yeah, we have seen. I mean, this track was obviously the home of the SF500 last year. Although I haven't heard any plans of a 2026 SF500. I know the 2026 Indy 500 is happening today, as well as the Canadian Grand Prix, which unfortunately I'll be at work for both of those events, so I'll miss out on both of them. But that's what reruns are good for. Anyways, it is time for qualifying to get underway, and at least so far today, I have not heard any drivers complaining about wind being a factor. So maybe maybe wind will actually play nice with the drivers here today, because I feel like that's been such a huge talking point this season. Has been the wind against these cars.
Yeah, so far in the week I've done pretty minimal running myself on the track, but amongst the small amount I have done, I hadn't even really noticed the wind or looked into it too much. Usually it's not something I'm looking at specifically, it kind of just lets me know it's there pretty immediately. But I didn't really notice too bad, although the dirty air is bad. So while the wind from nature might not be so bad, the wind from the leading cars that you're chasing is going to be very bad through that middle sector of the track.
As everybody goes ahead and gets ready to go here for the initial laps here, Nuko will be leading the charge here in our 15-minute qualifier before we have over 60, or I think it's like, what, 59 laps, I think? I looked at it earlier, I just forgot. And Nuko is going to go ahead and make his way through, coming through turn 18, and now he is going to go ahead and kick off the lap. We're going to run up board now with the reigning world champion, as he's going to go deep into turn 1, riding the hairpin very nice. A little bit of the throttle work that B23 was talking about a little bit earlier, now coming through the alligator mouth, as I like to call it. Just getting really, really, and you can see on the bottom right, just that throttle control has just been insane. You can hear him schooling the tires a little bit as he pushes hard through this sector. And now he's going to go hard on the brakes, coming into turn 10. Getting a good exit on 10 is so crucial. You can see him riding the curb there, because he wants to try to carry as much speed as he humanly can, coming through here the tunnels, going through the mountains, through the tunnels, and now making his way to the very, very sharp hairpin of turn 14. And then now he's going to go and get ready for the pretty much the almost entirely flat out sector 3, which does have turns pretty much 15 through 18 pretty much flat out if you have your setup nice and handy. And a 1:09.002 will set the benchmark in the opening stages of the session. And actually, Nuko's picked up a 1.5 seconds of pens there on his next run. So far nobody's been able to top Nuko's time here in the opening stages. Can championship leader Whiteout be the one to do that? He is a bit off comparatively, so not quite. This could be a really good chance for Nuko to get a win here if he could keep up this pace, because right now, King is really the only one that's super close to him. Just being about 0.2 off. Everybody else is about roughly half a second or greater. So, but then again, it is Baker laps. The track is going to get rubbered in, and we are going to see a massive improvement from these drivers all throughout the session. So it's probably going to be around the final 5 minutes or so that we really do see some good qualifying times come out here.
Especially with the 15-minute qualifying time that we have this season, as opposed to the 10 we had last season, it does take a lot of the pressure off as far as getting in a competitive representative lap right away. It kind of allows you to kind of get into the groove of the track a little bit better with the quali spec car, and it also allows you to set a few more banker laps early in the session so that you can feel comfortable that, okay, now I have at least a decent time on the board, which will allow you to take a lot more risk when you're actually on your hot laps. And if it doesn't work out, at least you still got a solid time on the board.
Exactly that. So you're going to really want to... It's a good reference point, right? And it's a good way to kind of get a feel for how the track is in the early stages of the session. And then you can really just... Because especially... For some of the drivers who just maybe just don't have enough time to put in a lot of consistent practice, maybe this is almost like a pseudo test session for them. Because, I mean, as we both know, especially with me in more recent times, work can often get in the way, and it can really play a factor in one's availability. So drivers don't always have a lot of time to practice And I mean, I know you've said you've done very limited running on this track here yourself here so far, so some drivers can use this as a bit of an impromptu test session for a while, just to kind of get the data, get the confidence, and then try to give it a go a bit later on. As it sits right now, actually, you blink and you miss it now. A lot of drivers are in the 108s with Viper, who's been really strong at qualifying, but in a lot of cases, he's just not been able to really build it up during the regular races. I mean, Watkins Gum was kind of a great example of that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do think that that has been kind of a trend, not only for Viper, but just Foxhound's team in general. Because on paper, when you look at these drivers, especially the quali times they're capable of, you would think that they should be winning at least a few races per season. But that just goes to show you how complex and multifaceted the actual race session is. There's a lot more to it than just being the fastest guy out there.
Actually, come to think of it, doesn't look like his teammate is here, so yeah, no Whiplash this time around. So it is exclusively Viper here representing the Foxhound Speed Group team. As now they go ahead and push their way on through. King is going to go ahead and try to set an improvement. Looks like he's going to get one. It was looking like he was about to improve, but just a couple of tenths off of his PB here. He's currently sitting only 15 milliseconds behind May JP in P6. Dennis has improved. He is up into 9th, just under a tenth away from Alex's time here in the opening stages. So Dennis, a driver who has really been making waves in both SWT and making a mark against the wall, as he has a massive snap on the exit in Sector 1. Yeah, that was not pretty, but the wind has actually slowed down quite a bit, and it was already comparatively pretty slow here at about 7 feet per second. Now it's 6.5 feet per second going in the northwest direction. So, I mean, that does put you in a pretty rough tailspin in some areas of the track, particularly through the last stage of Sector 1 and the opening stage of Sector 2. Really tricky stuff, but somebody else has had a spin, and they've returned to the pit side. Don't know who that was. I think that might have been Rogue. Up as he is still kind of parked there as F16 is just kind of ore farming right here. Parked in a very peculiar spot on the racing circuit. So he is just ore farming a bit here. Although that car does have damaged suspension, so definitely not. I mean, yeah, he's just, I mean, this is, hang on. Let me do something real quick. This is wallpaper material right here. Just go ahead and take the driver name off. There we go. That's a escape shot right there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and bring you guys back all the action as we go ahead and get away from F16's ore farming pose and back on to the racing track. As Nuco is going to go ahead and try to make some strides here. Now, Viper's qualifying time is really, really strong. Lucian now getting himself back into the mix. Currently only 0.3 of a second away from pole position here as we get ready for the final 5 minutes of qualifying. Rogue is going to go in and try to get some improvement on the board. Right now it is the ore farming Brit and then the tall man trying to go ahead and get some improvements here. Although F16 is still there, just kind of, okay, that photo isn't as, it's not from as much of an ore farm angle as the one from previous, but still pretty good stuff here, all things considered.
That's for sure. And a shorter lap time around this circuit will result in condensed gaps as far as qualifying goes. And so I would expect to see lap times really close, up toward the top especially.
Yeah, sorry, I was hearing a massive fan or something in the background, so that kind of hurt my ears ever so slightly, but if you've never dealt with any auditory shenanigans while you're commentating, then you just haven't been commentating long enough. Is F16 finally, he is no longer ore farming for now. And okay, so we have some connectivity shenanigans afoot, as Alex currently P5. But yeah, that might be a bit of a tricky thing to race against, as his connectivity is a little spotty, at least from our angles. I know King commented on it earlier, his countryman. So hopefully that doesn't affect anything in the race itself. As speaking of King, he is currently in P8 with about 4 minutes to go in the session. And we're going to start seeing some exceptionally blistering lap times here around Deep Forest Raceway. We're lighting Switzerland up here, a country that has actually had a motorsports ban that has actually recently been lifted. It was, an exception was made in, I believe, 2014 or 2015 for Formula E, and King has now moved up into P6, just about a 10th plus behind his countryman. But I think they've officially lifted the ban off of motorsports in Switzerland, so keeping an eye on the motorsporting activities out here may be something to note for the future. Maybe an actual return of the Swiss Grand Prix, something that has been in Formula 1 since around the 50s or 60s? Maybe. We'll just have to see. Final 3 minutes in qualifying. Who's your prediction, B23? Who's getting pole here?
Well, as Illusion improves, I was going to say, for some reason, I had a feeling that Nuco was going to be really strong here, but then every time I thought that, I also thought, yeah, but it's a bad idea to bet against Whiteout. But then, we do see 0.3 of a second being the difference between, or now it's 2 for, as Illusion crashes straight into a concrete wall there. 0.2 of a second from Illusion to Viper. That is actually quite a bit for these guys around a track like this. So that's very impressive. I would be surprised if somebody improved upon Viper's lap time.
Yeah, that is definitely a bit of a chasm that you'll have to try to find. You have to, and that's as a driver, that's one of the trickiest things to do. Is like, you know, where am I losing these tenths? Where are they gaining these tenths that I'm not? So it's a really difficult thing to really kind of see and note as we continue to race on through here. And we're going to see, can anybody improve here in the final 2 minutes of qualifying here? I think the main driver that will definitely look for improvements is May JP. And then him and his main rival from the Sprint World Tour of Dennis. Those two are going to continue to scrap it out. A rivalry that transcends the concept of divisions, as they battle both in SWT and WEC, racing for completely different teams. So it should be very, very interesting to see how the rest of this qualifying session plays out here, B23.
Yeah, definitely, and they do probably play a bit nicer in WEC if they come across each other, as there's really nothing directly to play for relative to each other, and since they're not at the front of the grid either. As Viper goes straight into the other side of the wall that Illusion found. Yeah, so these guys are really going full risk right now to find that last little bit of lap time, as they are just throwing themselves into these walls right now. But that's the luxury you afford yourself when you put up a strong banker lap. You really can try to push the limits, and it does not always work out when you do that.
Yeah, sometimes you push it a little too hard and you just end up straight into the barriers. So that's going to be Viper done with qualifying. About 20 seconds left on the clock, so we'll see
so
who
Illusion will have one more. He's about to cross the line. Crash between, it looks like 2 cars. We got Nuco, got tied up at the end of the tunnel. I didn't see with who, but it looked like I don't know. It looked weird from from my screen, so it looked like maybe there were 2 cars involved.
Actually, at least from the replay, we'll pull it up again, but the replay it looked like a bit of a self-spin.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there was nobody else involved. It was just a self-spin from Nuko.
Oh, weird. Yeah, because as soon as I switched to his screen, another car had driven right past the screen. It looked like they came together.
Oh, that is going to be Nuko's qualifying time done and dusted. A few more drivers still trying to push around. Tallman will not be improving here. He'll start from P12. Whiteout making his way to the line. Can he improve? Can he take pole position? He is burning the overtake. Oh, he's in the pit, so he's actually abandoned that lap. Lusion's in the wall. So that'll be a not improvement from him. Oh, he comes out in front of Nuko. Oh no. Yeah, let's get a look at this again. So this is gonna be Nuko riding on board here. He's coming through turn 14. Lusion had already spun out at this point, and then just pulls right out in front of him.
Okay, but luckily, even though he was on the overtake, Nuko, don't believe he was on a fast lap. Luckily, I think it was the same lap he had that crash. So luckily it was a bit of impeding, but I don't think it's gonna matter. It probably won't even see the stewards just because it was already kind of done for both of them at that point.
Yeah, we shall see. Here is your qualifying order here on the day. It is going to be Viper ahead of Whiteout, Lusion, Nuko, Alex, King, Yuki, and then Dennis rounding out your top 8. And then we have May JP, ASJ, Rogue, and Tallman rounding out the field here today. So, qualifying is done. And now, ASJ is saying that his ore farming was due to his controller dying out. So don't worry, we got a hard album cover for ASJ next time. I'll have to try to make that into an album cover later on today if I get the free time. But we are going to go ahead and get ready to rock and roll. 59 laps will be around this circuit. So the drivers will go ahead and get in and get ready to go here as we go ahead and get the race underway here shortly once the grid is now reset. So, B23, I have a question. What is the strategy going to be like here today? What are you predicting strategy-wise?
Well, 59 laps is quite a lot, and it is based on distance, so like total distance, so it's not as many as it seems relative to other tracks because it is a shorter track, shorter lap time, but you still have to go through that same sector many more times than you would otherwise. I do think we're gonna see a lot of mediums. I'm not exactly not sure how long the mediums last, but I would not be surprised if we also saw soft tires incorporated, just because the intervals kind of allow them to come back into play. So I don't think they would be used otherwise, but just because of the remaining laps, I think we might see some soft tires, maybe even off the start. But I think definitely after the first set of pit stops, we're going to see people start to switch up the strategy, and we're going to see some different compounds out there, is my prediction. And potentially a multi-stop race too, just based on the sheer number of laps. I do think that if somebody really wanted to commit heavily to a tire-saving, super one-stop strategy, they might be able to make it work. But I'm seeing a multi-stop today is what I'm predicting.
I'm thinking of a 2-stop, actually, honestly. Like,
yeah,
you could probably just run all mediums or two mediums and a soft. I don't think you can. I mean, maybe you can do 2 softs and a medium, but I don't know, to be honest. That seems kind of. I mean, to me, the big thing is like this isn't exactly a super high tire degradation track, but a lot of the tire degradation is going to come through the alligator mouth and just getting the dirty air. The dirty air does affect the tires quite heavily, and I mean, because long sweeping corners are usually the things that really hurt tire wear. You don't have a lot of those on this track. It's a lot of medium and low speed corners. I mean, the only set of corners where you're really flat out and really doing any damage to the tire is kind of that run from about turn 15 or so to turn 18. But other than that, you don't really have a whole lot of high tire deg on this track compared to, like, say, Barcelona, Suzuka, Canada. Well, Canada was an interesting one because I feel like we saw a bunch of tire swaps in Canada, but a lot of that was also due to damage. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of damage stops as well, just because, I mean, this track, especially Alligator Mouth, that one is really, really tricky when it comes to, I mean, that one's just tough, especially on lap 1. I feel like if we're going to see a red flag, it might be here today.
Yeah, as soon as they go through turn 1, they get up that hill, and then it starts snaking around, and the track starts narrowing at the same time. It's going to be rough. I would be very surprised if we don't, because as you go up that hill, you kind of need to decide who's going to be in front and not, because if you try to go wheel to wheel through that sector, somebody is going to be in the wall for sure. And the only way not to is if both drivers severely compromise their entries into these corners, because it is a very angle-based sector where you have to set up the car all the way to this side and then all the way to that side. So there's really no room to leave room and still go through at a quick enough clip that won't then cause you to be crashed into from behind either. So these guys are basically just going to have to figure it out really quickly off the line. There's not a big run up to turn 1, so they're going to have to figure out really quickly who's going to be in what position and ideally get single file.
Exactly, so that is going to be a very tricky run here. It's very much like Canada, where there is a very short run to turn 1 and it gets very narrow very, very quickly, but who is going to go ahead and survive the alligator jaws to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat as we get ready for 5 red lights on the gantry? And it is lights out and away we go here in Switzerland. Viper ready trying to dive for the inside. And we're going to see here as Lucia tries to fire around the outside.
Around the outside.
He
go for P1 on him.
He almost got P1 there as they're fighting it out. Coming into Sector 2, they've already begun the first part of this alligator mouth, and now they're going to go ahead and continue racing on. But this is going to be tight stuff here as we go through. No damage this time.
Rear
Alex
wing from Rogue. Oh, and then he touches the wall. More damage. That was on his own though.
So no red flag necessary here this time around as we continue to go on. As Illusion is ahead of Whiteout. And yeah, Nuko mentioning Alex's lag here on today. It's going to be probably a little tricky to race against, especially on some of the tighter sections of this racetrack. As Nuko, Nuko actually got hit pretty hard from that. So I want to see if it's too late to catch a replay of that. Okay, so didn't really catch that moment, but he dropped that far back.
No damage on Nuko though, luckily.
Yeah, he dropped that far back due to the fact that he had a penalty. And if I'm doing some detective work, I'm assuming that the penalty has something to do with Nuko trying to take evading action from getting put in the wall by Alex and then cross-track limits to get a pen. So that's my logic. As we see high caliber teammates actually battling here.
Yeah, high caliber teammates in the new special high caliber livery that I designed last second for these guys. A little bit of an alternate take on the lightning bolt. And we are seeing a good mix of different compounds early on here in the opening stint. Illusion, namely on the soft tire, Viper in P1 on the medium. So this is going to be very crucial for Illusion. He's going to need to get out in front of Viper very quickly here, so that Viper doesn't essentially completely nullify the pace advantage that those soft tires have, especially when you got a car like Whiteout just behind, also on the medium tire. Okay, Illusion does look like he's getting in front, and that is crucial for Illusion.
Very good overtake there from the Norwegian driver as he gets the move done and dusted here. So very good overtake, utilizing that soft tire like you mentioned earlier. Let's get a replay of that moment here. So riding up board now with Illusion. He is setting it up, making the run through turn 18 and firing on all cylinders, and that is the overtake done and dusted for the Norwegian driver. The Viking is back, and he has come to play here at Deep Forest Raceway as he still leads from Viper, who is actually losing a bit of ground to the two Spectres just behind.
Yeah, and that's not good news. If you're Viper, you're going to want to... Because I bet if you get caught up with one of them trying to defend from one and then you got two, when you get 1v2 and they're both teammates, I mean, it's hard enough to race against two cars at the same time. But when they're teammates, there's a lot they can do to kind of keep you where they want you on the track. But right now he's still safe. He's got just enough of the gap as we go back into Sector 1 here that he can be safe at least until they get to the straights. But just as the dirty air is powerful here, that means the slipstream is even more powerful once we get back to those straights. So he's going to want to build a gap every time we get into these curvy areas, so that by the time he's on the straight, they're just outside of that most effective slipstream range. But it doesn't look like he will get it this time around. Whiteout just behind in the slipstream, but Viper using a bit of the overtake early on here. Alex kind of in a zone of his own here as he's trying to play catch up to the leading group that King is at the back of.
Yeah, but that connectivity is going to make things tricky to it's going to make drivers apprehensive to go side by side, because they see what happened to Nuko, who is now down into 7th, chasing out MayJP for 6th, making a run up the hill. And he's going to try to follow that slipstream. MayJP actually going on the inside line, going defensive against the reigning champion. MayJP sticking the inside line through the hairpin. Is Nuko going to have just more pace? The answer is yes. Nuko's back up into 6th, but good defensive effort there from MayJP. The young British driver is really making waves here in WEC. Already the title favorite for SWT. He is just showing everybody what he's made of here tonight.
And that was a great around the outside overtake from Nuko at turn 1. Now turn 1 here on this track in particular is one of the few circuits where there's a turn that it's almost equal whether you're on the inside line or outside line. The track is just wide enough for that turn, and you can carry a lot of speed around the outside. Both lines are viable to overtake on. Yeah, MayJP and Yuki are stuck together like glue, the two high calibers, essentially pulling each other along like he's got a trailer. Dennis just behind them too, looking like he actually has a little bit of pace on the two of them at the particular moment.
Yeah, it's actually... And I mean, I know that a lot of times when you come up with these fictional tracks like what Gran Turismo does, they do take some inspiration from some parts of other racing circuits. And turn 1 here kind of reminds you of turn 1 at Zandvoort, because turn 1 at Zandvoort, it's almost optimal sometimes down the outside lane, just considering that the next corner does really play into the favor, because outside becomes inside and all that. So maybe that's where they pull the inspiration for that particular turn 1. Or it could just be a hairpin characteristics. But it's definitely a hot spot for trying to overtake. Dennis, though, does get a half-second time penalty for track limit violations. So he is going to go ahead and slow down just a smidge. And he will go ahead and get back out and try to catch back up to the high calibers. He's already knocking time off of those high calibers. despite the fact he just got off of a penalty. Although, to be noted, he is on a set of soft tires comparative to the high calibers running mediums, as Viper's actually dropped a spot to Whiteout. So Whiteout's now up into P2, and he's setting purple sector, so he's trying to catch up to Illusion. He's gonna try as he may, but we'll just kind of have to see how it all pans out here. I think I'm gonna do some math here on the back end, but I think mathematically Whiteout can become champion here today.
And he's looking like he's in a good position to do so too, as he is closing in on Illusion in P1, already having gotten past Viper, who is, I would say, falling back, but it almost looks like the two ahead are just extraordinarily fast at the moment, as King isn't really making too much headway. He is also on the soft tire, which is now beginning to wear a bit, and Alex behind, also not really making up any ground on King. In fact, he's probably lost about a second since I last mentioned it 2-3 laps ago. Although he is on the slower tire at the moment, that will become the faster tire, I'm sure, here in the next handful of laps, maybe 5 laps or so. We'll see the medium tire start to become the favorable pace tire.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and see how this one kind of pans out as they go ahead and continue to battle out here. There are some gaps. And then you got Dennis, who's actually splitting the high calibers at the moment. He got the overtake at 1, trying to get the most out of the soft tire, as they now make the run to turn number 10. And they're going to make their way down here. So just taking a look at some things here really quickly. So I want to see what the points differential is. And then, so just gonna do that. So, ooh,
Dennis
actually,
gets by May JP.
Yeah, you take it away for a bit. I'm gonna continue doing some mathematics here.
Sounds good, as May JP is fighting it back too, so this is really good time to look at this one. We got May JP around the outside this time, but Dennis looks like he had a bit of a better run, a little bit of contact right at the kind of peak of the corner there. Any amount of contact, if you're on the outside, is gonna, if your tires scoot even just a little bit, it's gonna cost you just enough momentum that the other car will be able to slip in front of you just before going up that hill, and that's exactly what happened here. I've experienced that myself many times around that corner. Been on the receiving end of a little scooch off to the side, and Dennis pulling away now as he hits a little bit of overtake just to build that gap. Oh, May JP also receiving a half-second penalty. That's going to be terrible, given the situation he finds himself in at the moment, in between two cars, very close together. That is going to definitely favor Yuki, but a car just behind them too, ASJ, not to be counted out whatsoever, also clinging to the back of this group. He will also probably be able to be in position to attack May JP once he serves that penalty. May JP, though, back in front of Dennis, who has to switch last second. There's big contact as they turn in to turn 1. May JP holds on to it and slips in front. Now, even though he will lose this position later in the lap because of that penalty, this is huge. Oh, as Dennis gets squirrely there too. And both drivers doing a great job of holding on to these cars as they get a little loose. So May JP approaching the final couple corners before he's going to have to serve this penalty. And he did a great job to keep Dennis in check, though, and that keeps his teammate in play too. Yuki seems to be just out of a good range to attack Dennis, though. So all of that work won't really result in much, unfortunately, but he actually did such a good job on that lap that he didn't lose any positions other than the retake to Dennis. He is still in front of Yuki, and it does look like May JP has the best chance. Okay, but we have a fight for P1 now as well. Illusion and Whiteout less than a few tenths away from each other. Whiteout all over the back of Illusion right now. but he caught him at just the worst possible time as they go through this windy sector of the track, going through the dips and bends in the tunnels, the banking, everything involved. Very nice little sector of track. When it gets done just right, it is very nice. And when it's not, it's very rough. Now, Illusion's tire is also just under 50% worn on that front left, well under 50% on the front right. And so now that's seeming like it's coming into play a bit here. Now, the best thing for Illusion to do up until the moment he pits is to try to keep Whiteout behind for as long as possible, because just like it's kind of the inverse of the situation, Illusion found himself on lap 1 and 2. Now that the soft tires no longer has the advantage, he can try to stay in front of Whiteout, cost Whiteout as much time here as possible to nullify the advantage that the mediums now have. The last thing you want is Whiteout to get in front with clean air and can just pull away and try to build a gap, because that will come back later in the race as a very strategic kind of crossroads we find ourselves at right now. What happens here is going to determine a lot of what happens for the rest of the race in these next few laps. So yes. Checking back in on MayJP, who has another half a second penalty and finds himself behind Yuki now. Not sure what happened there, but whatever it was didn't seem like it worked out too well for MayJP.
So as it sits, sorry to cut you off there, but as it sits, if the race remains as is, it will go down to Abu Dhabi, because you need to have a 36-point gap in the championship to get the win here this round. And as it sits, with everything considered, the gap will only be 17 points, 244 to the 227 as it sits. Now, if it was kind of reversed here, so currently right now, Whiteout has 217 points. So if he finishes right now, he'll have 252. Or if he gets to win here, he will have 252. And then Illusion, on the other hand, wouldn't quite have that much, but he would have 219, which, and I'm just going to do one other quick calculation. Just going to do one other real quick calculation. I still think that this goes down to Abu Dhabi. It does, but barely.
Mathematically, but
3 points behind the threshold. So
yeah, so competitively not so much, but mathematically there's still a chance.
Exactly. So what Illusion will have to do, if this did go down to Abu Dhabi, it would be like, no matter what, Illusion would have to win the race. If he does not win, no title. He'd have to win the race, and also Nuko would have to get a DNF. That would be the state of play if Whiteout wins this race without the fastest lap. If Whiteout does get the fastest lap here as well, he'll be at 253, which just puts him 2 points shy of the threshold. So as Whiteout does shake for a move going into turn 14, if Whiteout were to win here, if he wanted to win the championship, Illusion would have to get P3 or lower. If Illusion's in second, the title fight goes on. So that is the state of play as it sits here for the championship. As MayJP is out! MayJP has been dropped from the session, and we are down to 11. Speaking of 11, Tall Man trying to get past the Rogue here.
Whiteout all over the back of Illusion here. He almost got him into T1, but Illusion managed to survive into Sector 1 for one more lap. The front right is cooked now. Yeah, and so blue flags I was going to say too, I do believe that just based on the nature of the track that blue flags are going to play a role in this race, unfortunately, but I believe that's going to happen. Because it's just going to be the case, I believe. Someone's going to catch a blue flag car right in that middle sector where it's so hard to pass. Oh, here comes Whiteout. He's got the outside line now. Illusion pinning him to the outside. But okay, staying ahead for now, but that gives Whiteout the run all the way up to turn 1.
Oh, and actually Illusion's going to go into the pit, so he's going to try to offset it here. And actually, I was going to just mention that Viper wasn't too far back. He was actually within a second of those two. So he could have really made a difference here. So the pit stop is being made here, the EXO AMR team. And they're trying to get Illusion out there as quick as they can. It'll be a set of mediums for the Norwegian driver. He'll come out in a P5 just by Nuko, who actually everybody in front of him is running mediums. So we'll see if that offset strategy will play into his hands. He'll have to definitely get some work done as Rogue does pull over to the side for Whiteout to go on through. Tall Man will be the next car that he will have to try to take up, as it is going to be Adaptive Inc. being the next one to go on through. Alex a bit further back, so he won't be catching up to this traffic just yet here on the racing circuit. But now they're going to make the good run here, and actually Rogue is actually catching, he was actually catching a Viper a little bit there. I think it was marginal, so I don't think he would have had a chance to make an overtake. I don't think he would have anyway if he could. But that is something worth noting, is that Viper might be running a slightly higher downforce setup compared to Whiteout and the rest of the field, at least to Rogue. I know that Toyota seat is almost like the second Red Bull seat in a sense. Just behind, Rogue goes up the inside. He's trying. He is putting it all on the line, but just doesn't quite get it. And he will continue racing here. But Rogue, for all the effort, gets a half-second pen.
And the pen, yeah.
That battle is neutralized.
That'll be another one, probably.
As unfortunate as that is.
Got away with the second one. Yeah, now like a Whiteout with clean air, starting to pull away from Viper now pretty handily. As we got, so it looked like King also taking a pit stop from the soft tire back onto another set of softs, though. That's very interesting. I am not sure. So based on 16 laps, I might have to do some little calculator stuff here in a minute just to see what kind of potential intervals he could be working with. Because I was not expecting back-to-back sets of soft at any point in this race.
Yeah, no, we weren't either, so yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to say the least. Yeah, because I mean, we were saying that it was not likely that we were going to see, like, if it is a two-stop strategy, we weren't expecting two sets of softs. We were expecting a soft and then two sets of mediums, like kind of like what I think Illusion is going to try to go for as he continues his way through the track. I'm trying to see here. He hasn't really caught up a lot to Nuko. Let's see the time difference. Only about half a second on that last lap. So Illusion really, and actually not even that, he was actually slower on lap 16 compared to Nuko. So he made about half a second on the prior lap. But he needs to make up more time than that if he really wants to try to get the most out of these mediums. So he's going to go ahead and push on. Push it to the limit. That's an old song.
Nice.
That's probably older than the both of us combined, but
perhaps. Oh, also in communication with May JP at the moment. I can confirm it was a Wi-Fi related disconnect. It was not a rage quit or anything like that. So very unfortunate stuff. He had been expressing concern about that throughout the season, that there's a potential for that to happen. But luckily, it hasn't happened yet so far in the season. Unfortunate that it happens today, but also lucky that it doesn't happen in a race that is a money race for him, where big points are on the line. And Rogue in a very tricky spot of the track to find himself pointing in the wrong direction, but lets a few cars go by, and then gets himself going again.
Yeah, F16 is back out from the pits, so he's on a new set of mediums, and he'll get a half-second penalty, as MJP has actually rejoined. He has rejoined, but unfortunately he won't be able to rejoin the race, as a bit of a snap there from F16, the Fighting Falcon, fighting that Porsche all the way through. That is a generational snap coming through the beginning of Sector 2. That is not what you want here. As now, Lujan has actually come to Nuko, but it's a half-second penalty.
Yeah, worst possible time for that, just as he caught up.
Yeah, so Lujan has to get P2 if he wants this title, or if he wants a chance to at least have this title go down to Abu Dhabi. So, if it finishes like this, then Whiteout will be your Season 7 champion, as it sits currently. It'll be decided a round early, and it is going to be a tough fight, but it is going to be a fight indeed, as they try to go through. Lujan trying to hurry the back of Nuko. He's going to go ahead and push here. There is traffic just up the road, though. That is going to play a factor. Tallman's kind of right there. And then there's Alex as well, so it's all going to kick off here. Oh, but Tallman just parks the bus. And
on the apex, probably not where you want to let a car by, but he tried his best. I think he was a little confused by, like, he was trying to get by, and then Illusion slowed down because of the penalty, so he probably wasn't sure if, like, okay, do I let Illusion by or not right now? And then when he did catch him, it was just awkward timing, so nothing really Tallman could have done. He tried his best, but unfortunate there. Blue flags do play at least a small role so far in the race, as Yuki is coming into the pits from the medium tire. Now this is crucial for Illusion now, because the gap was 11 seconds, now it's 12.5 seconds to the leader Whiteout, and that gap is basically the gap for the lead right now. If Illusion can keep that gap within the pit stop lost time, then he is essentially net P1 right now, but it's hard to tell because he's also caught the back of Nuko, who's not going to let him by easily, and as long as Nuko is costing him time, he's going to make it harder for him to re-net that P1 once Whiteout, who is right on cue, jumped into the pit. So we will see now, actually. The answer will come sooner rather than later. From the medium tire, lap 21.
Yeah, I think he'll jump back out on a...
Yeah, so 16 laps for the... Oh my god, we're 3 wide into turn 1 here.
This is not going to end terribly.
Oh my goodness.
And through goes Lujan, off goes Nuko.
Alright,
we got to get a replay of that. So
that was crazy. And Whiteout just behind too, crucially, Alex, who's very laggy.
Yeah, so there we go, 3 wide here. Oh, and actually I think it was just Whiteout just being stuck on that outside lane. Gets kind of ping-ponged. So I think what happened was that, at least, let's go and try to look at it again if we can, if I didn't break the replay system. So there's a very good shot of Whiteout getting his tires fixed, getting some new tires on. So here they go, 3 wide here. I'm going to watch from Alex. So
yeah,
Alex
Nuko's
here.
not happy about that.
Oh, I think, yeah, Alex was just right kind of smack dab in the middle there. And he got tagged by
Whiteout
Illusion.
gets by Alex.
Tagged
That's crucial for Whiteout.
He got tagged by Illusion, and Alex is trying to come back at him though. So this could have massive championship implications, considering his teammate is the one fighting for the title. So Alex is gonna try to send it up the inside. The connectivity though is making things so difficult, and around he goes. Oh, that connectivity is probably making Whiteout have to second guess a lot of stuff here. So Nuko's definitely not happy. This is the second time he's gotten cooked by Alex in some way or another.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think twice when you're going wheel to wheel with Alex into a corner on the best of days, but when you're going wheel to wheel with Alex, a laggy Alex, you got to really consider your risk versus reward when you go into that corner. Because sometimes it might just be the better option to just let them have that for a second and maybe get it back later when it's a cleaner opportunity. Because as you see, the way that car is jittering, that could be a race ender. Although Nuco not too far back, actually. I mean, it does suck what happened to Nuco there, but he's not miles away like you'd expect after an incident like that, and it doesn't look like he picked up any damage either. So very lucky to get away with that with no damage. I mean, he's not going to be happy. There's probably going to be a report coming to Alex, but based on what we saw, I really don't even think it was Alex's fault, honestly. It just seemed like, if anything, Alex got pushed into Nuco. But then again, if it goes to the stewards, we will have all the angles, slow-mo replay from every perspective, and we'll get to the bottom of that when that time comes, if it does indeed. Now, Alex, having taken a pit stop from P3 off the medium tires onto a second set of medium tires on lap 24. And so the soft tire from the opening stint went 16 laps, by the way. So if we're on lap 24 for the mediums, 21 whiteout on the mediums, that's actually really good performance from the soft, the likes of which we have not seen all season.
Exactly that. So it's going to be a good fight here. And a lot of drivers really getting their money's worth on those soft tires. I mean, King especially really trying to get some good mileage on those softs as we are approaching half race distance here on the Grand Prix. So far it's been a very good run for King, trying to close into Nuco here as they continue to scrap it out here for position. Wow. Nuco's on archaic mediums. He is not pit yet, so I think he might be trying to go for the one stop, but King is just, you know, knocking on that door, wanting entry to P4, which would be a really good step for SAR's chances in trying to get the Constructors Championship. So Spectre really wanting, because they're also in the fight for the Constructors here. So it's going to be a good
also
fight
fighting
between them.
Illusion for P1 at the moment too. Had a really good run into turn one that both of them did, but Illusion managing with really good car position to stay ahead. But now he's on the outside line going into the hairpin. Now he does, with very late braking, stay ahead. Once again, that'll give Whiteout the run into turn one, but it could possibly give Illusion the choice of line. Now both of these drivers, very interestingly enough, have demolished their overtake usage. They're almost empty already, and we're not even quite at the halfway distance of this race, so hopefully they found it worth it to burn it all that early against each other. Because Viper just behind, he's right behind them still, just kind of watching how this unfolds, staying patient. We're not really talking about him too much, but he's right there, and he's used about half as much overtake as the two leading cars in front of him.
Whiteout has a bit of a touch of the gravel there. Pardon me, on the exit of turn 9, excuse me. As they continue now, they're making their way through the tunnels, through the mountains, as they try to get these positions here, try to close in the gap. Whiteout on to Illusion. But look who else has thrown himself right into this party. Viper could be a dark horse here in this one. He could be really the catalyst of this title decider here. Because, I mean, either we go to Abu Dhabi or it goes to Whiteout. It cannot go to Illusion under any circumstances here today. So Illusion is definitely in the hot seat at the moment. He can handle getting a P2, but he cannot handle getting a P3. If it's P3, title over, pretty much. So, I mean, even with a P2, that title hope really just kind of gets dashed. It's going to be a mountain to climb, but I'm sure Illusion would love to be the bride at some point, tired of being the bridesmaid. He got P2 last season in the Drivers' Championship. And he's looking like he might get another P2 in this championship if things go sideways. But the winner of the 2025 SF500 is still going to go to try to make some good ground here. He's going to try to at least cut that gap down to 17 points in the Drivers' Championship. He still has the fastest lap, so that'll also help his case as he continues to speed along here, now making the run through turns 16, 17, and 18. Going to cut it very tight to the inside line. Whiteout, though, going to close in the gap. He's got the lead. Oh, Lujan having a bit of a snap there. And that is going to be the overtake for the lead. And Lujan was in the grass temporarily, so let's get another view of that overtake. So just good slipstream.
I knew it. Yeah, half a second penalty for illusion there getting into the grass. So it can deceive you. That green stuff just to the right of the curb is not in track limits. The red curb is the end of track limits. So that is going to cost another position for illusion.
Yeah, and actually, and here's the thing about that. So if Viper is very likely going to get past him here. If it stays like this, then Lujan's championship is gone just like his P2. So he needs to finish second place to continue on with the title. That is exactly what he needs here. So if Illusion can get that P2, the title fight, despite the fact that it is a 33-point gap, goes to Abu Dhabi. Viper now going to go for the move. This might change the complexion of things here a bit. So, Viper now in the race lead. This might just save Illusion a little bit. This might just save Illusion. I'll have to run some more calculations here. But, with that being said, this does change the dynamic of it. And also fastest lap, potentially going to Viper. So, the Viper has struck, and it might play a huge role in the championship picture.
Whoa. Viper P1.
Yeah, so Viper on that fresh set of mediums is having some pretty good pace here at the moment. So as it sits, Whiteout currently would have 244 points. I'm gonna see what I gotta do the calculations again for if Illusion gets P3 here.
In the pits. King off very destroyed soft tire Nuco, very equally destroyed mediums. See what both these cars come out on. And it is a third consecutive set of soft tires for King, no skill, and another set of mediums for Nuco. So these guys very comfortable with the tires that they are on. They like the tires they got. Not gonna change them.
I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, that's pretty much the sentiment. So we'll just kind of see how this all pans out here. But as it sits here at the moment, with the calculations, this title fight, if the race finishes as it is, it will still go down to Abu Dhabi if it finishes like this. So the point differential between them, it'll be 244 to 214, considering that is if it is a fastest lap here from Illusion. So that brings it down to 30 points. So pretty much, the long story short, as we are over half a race distance, is for Whiteout to win the championship here, he needs to get first place, and Illusion has to get third or lower. If Whiteout does not win, or if he doesn't win, at least at this stage, because I mean, there are other extreme cases, right, where Illusion just drops significantly down the order. But in terms of what's kind of more standardized and what's more likely to happen, then Whiteout needs to get a race win here, and Illusion would have to be P3 or lower. It wouldn't really matter which direction the fastest lap goes. So that's the state of play for the Drivers' Championship. I think the Constructors will still go on as it sits, but as of now, as of this second, it is still going to be a championship that goes down to Abu Dhabi. A tough one of that, it would still need to be the case of Illusion winning with Nuco getting no points. So mathematically possible, statistically improbable, but that's the beauty of motorsport. Nothing is ever truly impossible. I mean, look at Braun GP in 2009.
Right, exactly. And even a couple seasons ago, it looked like a very similar situation in the Drivers' Championship between Whiteout and Nuco. And then Whiteout was solidly ahead and didn't finish one of the races towards the end of the season. And that one thing decided the championship in Nuco's favor that season. And also, according to my tire calculations, I do believe that King No Skill will have to take another pit stop before the end of this race distance, making it 4 consecutive sets of soft tires.
Exactly that. So things have definitely simmered down for now, but it is championship implications that are really going to be the big deciding factor here in today's event. As the blue flags are out again, traffic can be a big factor here. Traffic giveth and traffic taketh the way, as a good friend of mine would say. And traffic has already played a little bit of a part here in the earlier stages of the race. As Dennis, I believe, will be Tall Man.
Yeah, Tall Man
will be the next traffic car. Rogan's getting blue flags, but for different drivers. So, actually, he's getting blue flags for one of the Porsches. So, Tall Man will be the next one to... Oh, he's already let them both through. So, that's the thing about Tall Man that I'm sure that this field appreciates, is when he gets lapped, 9 times out of 10, he is pretty much a non-factor. But this second stint for Illusion is just... He did pit in earlier, but just the offset strategy just doesn't seem like it's really played in his favor, as Whiteout's really firing on all cylinders. But Viper, he's got overtake unlike the other two behind him, so this could really fall Viper's way.
Absolutely it could. And yeah, just also on Tall Man too, across both classes, he races well, races hard, but his car, wherever it is on track, always has kind of a professional demeanor to it. So we definitely appreciate the way Tall Man does business, as he shows early that he is moving aside for Illusion despite not quite arriving yet. Here comes Illusion. It'll be a little bit.
And I know a lot of times, sometimes with traffic, it's really just being at the right place at the right time. And yep, he is already pulled way off to the side, and he is going to let him on through. And Illusion definitely appreciative of that one, as he is now currently 4 seconds behind Whiteout. So, and with Whiteout pretty much breathing down the neck of Viper, I mean, if he gets the overtake, then the championship is definitely in Whiteout's court here. So, I mean, that's really the big thing here, is just try to stay consistent. There's still a good amount of racing left to go, and this championship is still on the line. It could really just be made or broken here at this stage. So
yeah, and so Whiteout chasing Viper down. Normally this would slow them two down a little bit, allowing Illusion to catch back up, but they're just going so fast right now. They're not really costing each other any time right now. They seem to kind of just be pulling away from Illusion instead of fighting each other too hard. But not only that, despite Illusion having clean air, very difficult to make up ground with the state of those tires. He may need to get off of those soon, because the two guys ahead have just much better tires right now and can push hard all the way through that middle sector of the track.
Yeah, so you might need to try a undercut here to really get the most out of those tires, and maybe try to try to jump in, but yeah, Illusion's just not making any ground. He's actually losing almost a second per lap to Whiteout and Viper. And actually, despite the fact he's on older tires, Whiteout has been the quickest car on track. Currently a 1:10.8 versus a 1:11.2. So not a huge gap, but still enough to really make a huge difference as it is within half a second now. He's almost within the range to start benefiting from the slipstream. So he could really close in this gap. But here's the downside.
King catching Alex now too for P4.
But here's the thing. Viper has overtake. Whiteout has hardly any. So that's going to be definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Where Viper still had about just under 50% remaining when Whiteout and Illusion, who just came into the pits, were pretty much completely empty with theirs, and Viper since then having used another quarter or so of his overtake. And that has paid dividends so far in this race, because look at the position he now finds himself in, just staying patient, not using anything, and now he gets to deploy all of his resources just at the right times. Now there's still a lot of laps left to go. A lot can happen as Illusion comes out of the pits in P3, just ahead of his teammate, who is there to help provide a bit of a buffer to the Acura of King No Skill.
Yeah, we could really see some really interesting team play and some team rivalry here on the night, because Alex and King, you know, the EXO and Acura cars respectively, I mean, they could really, and their teammates are both the last ones left in championship contention here. So, I mean, this is super crucial. If the team play really works in one way or the other, then it could have massive ramifications for the World Championship. As Illusion closing in, or he wants to close in. Maybe it might get a little bit of extra time on those tires, but his teammates right behind. And here's the crazy thing that is actually gonna play in Illusion's favor, is that Alex is such a hard car to overtake, even on a good day, like you said. But when Alex is having connectivity spikes, then he is. I mean, we saw what happened with Nuko on 2 separate occasions, mind you. We've seen what happens there. So, and I mean, yeah, that just coming through turn 1 was an actively good point. It almost looked like a rearward collision, and Alex just teleports 90 feet in front of him. So, it's dangerous stuff around this track to try to get past Alex. But that is probably the best buffer shield that Luju could have really hoped for here.
Yeah, an absolute force field is Alex at the moment, so I would be very comfortable with, yeah, as it appears like Alex going straight into the wall, and then now he's going down the road.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really, it's gonna be good for Illusion, who is already kind of eking out that gap, but it's going to be nightmare fuel for King if he wants to try to get in position. But I can't even tell that was actually a slide or not because of the connectivity for Alex. I couldn't tell if that was a slide or what.
Oh, Dennis with damage on front and rear wing. Wonder what happened there, as he's in the pits fixing that up and taking a new set of tires.
Oh, you might
onto the soft.
He'll slow down to let King and Alex through. Oh no, he actually cuts back in front of King, but he pulls back away at the last moment. So I think that's definitely more of just wrong place at the wrong time here. I think that's pretty much the key thing. Just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, that's the old Greek handshake, as King is also Greek himself, despite the German flag. A Greek German.
Not a combination I would initially think about, as King is kind of considered the unk here in the field. I'm kidding. No, he's only like, he's only 26, I think. He actually corrected us after WC in Japan when we raced at Suzuka. He did give us a correction about that. I forget. I'll have to look back and read it again. But Whiteout in the pits. This is going to be a crucial one. What does he take? He's going to take a good amount of extra fuel. But
mediums.
So where does he come out in relation?
Yeah, well ahead of Illusion.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens here. He comes out just at a tall man. So I'll be curious to see when Adaptive Ink comes in, because he's got about 20 laps to go here in the race. Or I guess about more like 19 and a half. But we got about 19 and a half laps left to go here in this one. And he is going to try to continue to push on. Illusion still has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix though, so that'll at least be 1 extra point awarded to Norwegian as he continues to try to close in the gap here. But the tire offset is going to be pretty crazy here, so I'll be pretty keen on seeing when Viper makes a pit stop, because I think that's going to really put into perspective if Illusion if the title fight goes on or if the title fight ends here and now.
Yeah, Illusion with a bit of a gap to make up, but he's got a decent amount of laps to try to do it. Now, anything can happen from here, of course, but it is looking pretty good for Whiteout and Viper, especially by extension, as those tires are still holding up pretty good. Something I notice about Viper's tire wear is that it seems to be a little more balanced from the left to the right. That front right taking much more of a beating on this track than the other tires, and yet his seem to be pretty well balanced still. The front right still a little bit more worn, as we would expect, but not by as much as the others today have seen. Well, and Alex with really balanced wear too at this stage. Although I will say, once they start to get worn about 50%, that's when the rate of wear really ramps up, when the understeer starts to set in, which makes it even harder to manage the tires, and we might see that front right start to run away with the wear after that.
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be... I mean, it's difficult on this track to really maintain your tires to at least an even degree, because there are some portions of the track where your tire wear really gets tested. Somebody's actually around. Who may that be? It is Rogue who has spun around, so that is a bit of a tough one there for him. But looking at lap times here, Whiteout looks to be closing in a little bit by just under a second per lap, so... Yeah, Viper either A, needs to stick it out all the way with a one stop, or he just needs to really, he just needs to pit now and then just pray that he'll be able to make up the difference later.
Yeah, he needs to make a firm decision quickly here, and he's going into the pits. Yeah, because if he didn't make a decision right now, I mean, he's just getting undercut pretty severely by Whiteout right now. That could have even cost him the net lead right there, the amount of time that Whiteout was out there on those brand new tires. But we will see here in just a moment where he comes out, as Whiteout is approaching, going around that final corner. Not much of a corner at all, as he is at full speed, crossing the line now. Viper does head out in P1, but just Whiteout way more speed coming around turn 1, and he does take the lead around the outside of turn 1. That undercut was just strong enough to net Whiteout the lead of this race. Although, Viper on brand new soft tire though.
I was just going to mention that. He just popped on a new set of soft tire, so that's going to make things particularly interesting. And as it sits, Whiteout's got one hand on the trophy. He's got one singular hand on the trophy as it sits. If the race finishes as it is, the point differential between them will be beyond the threshold. It'll be 252. It'll be 252 for Whiteout. So.
And here's the push from Viper, using a little bit of that remaining overtake that he still has. A luxury at this point in the race, the positions he finds himself in. Viper with a ton of advantage right now.
He does indeed. But it's going to be close, but... Oh, but look at Whiteout sticking it up the inside. He's trying to force him wide, force him onto the grass. A little bit of contact between the two, and they are still going to fight here. This one is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh, lucky to get away with that one as Vipers. That was a pretty wide exit out of turn 1 there, but he had so much speed going around the outside. The tires were, I'm sure, worried as Yuki comes into the pits there from the medium tire.
Yeah, so if Whiteout gets back into the lead, the point differential will be 38 points. So just outside of the range or just in the range to clinch the title officially. So
yeah,
that's how it sits at the moment. But right now, it's going to be a narrow point. I think it's only a 3-point shot at the threshold. But this will go to Abu Dhabi as it sits. Now, I think Viper getting onto those new soft tires was definitely the play here. But if Whiteout is known for one thing above all else, tenacity. This driver's got it in spades as he continues to try to push on. But those tires, man, those soft tires, they work wonders here, especially when they're fresh out of the box. As they continue to go ahead and make their way through. The dirty air also is not going to help his case. Wind has picked up only slightly, only marginally, not enough to be any real difference. It is facing a bit more westward now as the wind continues here. But, I mean, this track really has not been affected by wind hardly at all here on the racetrack. So, and actually Viper does set the fastest lap of the race here. So, I still think, I don't think that's quite enough to totally change the tide of things. So that'll be, so yeah, that's still 20, that's actually, that makes things pretty, oh, hang on, sorry, I did the wrong calculations here. So, at this stage, it'd be 244 and 213 would be it, and it'd be 31 points. So, still possible, still tough, because you'd be preying on Whiteout just not being there, pretty much. But, the title is still going on.
So Alex in the pits from the medium tire that actually was looking pretty good still, but I know what he's doing. He know that he had, okay, well, he gave up one position for that. I don't know why he would have done that, but he knew he'd be ahead of King No Skill at least. And I do think he's going to go for a fastest lap attempt, as he has saved half of his overtake and now is on the brand new soft tire. So I do expect to see a fastest lap attempt from Alex here within the next few laps. Probably not right away, just to let those tires warm up and get into their optimal performance window, and then we'll see him deploy. He started to deploy a little bit right now already. So maybe he's not going to wait for those tires. Just go straight away. I'm not sure of the thinking though, because he was P4, gave up the position in Nuco with a 10-second gap.
Yeah, so we'll just kind of see as the field has pretty much spread out now at this stage. So as we get down to the final couple of laps here, Whiteout would have wanted to close out the championship here this weekend, but he will have to wait to Abu Dhabi 2 weeks from now as it sits here at the moment. So it's been a good run here in the championship, and as I'm looking through these statistics, this will be Viper's first Grand Prix victory of the season. He did win the sprint race in round 4, but he has not gotten an official Grand Prix victory just yet. He only has the sprint win from the first sprint race of the season, which took place at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. So he took one sprint win, but not a Grand Prix win, and this is probably his best shot to actually get a Grand Prix win here today. He played the tire lottery, and he has hit the jackpot, as he is still currently about 1.6 seconds away. But if those tires fall off too much, Whiteout might have a bit of an answer here in those mediums. The mediums will start off slower, but they'll stay fast for longer comparatively to the soft tires. So as we get to the closing stages, it is really just all to play for.
Absolutely, and now this is some of the biggest gaps that we've seen between P1 and P2 all race long, but it's still under 2 seconds, and it does kind of look like Whiteout is kind of chilling at the moment, taking it easy. I'm not sure if this is just Viper with insane pace at the moment. He is on really good soft tires still, so it could be the tire difference. But also, it could partly be a little bit of patience on the part of Whiteout, kind of just preparing his car for the next attack phase that he decides to launch. But at this point, I'm not sure. It might just be a pure pace difference with that soft tire from Viper.
Yeah, I mean, that soft tire. I mean, we've seen how magical that soft tire's really been here today. So I mean, we've seen some. I mean, Illusion had a mega stint on that soft tire in the opening stages. So the soft tire really can play really well for drivers, especially in the opening stages of a soft tire stint. And now that he is on fresher tires, Viper could really just play. He could play to his strengths here and just play on that pace. I mean, realistically, he could honestly just run quali laps here for the next 10 laps and then just be perfectly gravy. But, however, you notice something about that time ticker on the left-hand side of the screen on our timing tower. That number in some areas is getting smaller. We do note that Viper is potentially running a higher downforce setup to give him a bit more edge coming through the alligator mouth. So with that all being said, as we officiate the final 10 laps of the Grand Prix, depending on how much those soft tires stay in or fall off, Whiteout might have a bit of a chance here. Might.
Oh yeah, definitely, because to take these soft tires from their current state another 10 laps is going to be quite the ask. I think he's capable of doing it, of course, but whether or not he's capable of doing it while staying ahead of Whiteout on a strong medium tire is going to be another question entirely.
Yeah, so
the Whiteout making up a little bit of ground.
He makes some ground here on the straights, but he loses a lot of that in the corners. So, and also Viper still has about twice the amount of overtake to play with. So this should be a very interesting one to the line, as Adaptive Ink is going to go ahead and push on, and he's going to make ground here, going to make hay while the sun shines. But on straights, Whiteout's definitely got an edge here. As it is still going to be Adaptive Ink trying to close into his first Grand Prix win of the season. His first batch of 35 points to his name. And Illusion now. His championship hope lives on. As of now, he will live to fight another day, as he is looking at, once again, being the bridesmaid, but not the bride. And that is going to be an unfortunate thing, but it's still a pretty good testament to Illusion's entire season. He's had a rough one here. He's had a rough time in qualifying here for a good portion of the season. And I've even heard some inklings that this may be his final season here in GPL. I don't know if that's true or not, so just take it with a grain of salt. But I have heard retirement rumors starting to speculate. But I mean, also they've been saying that Lewis Hamilton's supposed to retire for like 4 years now, so take it as you will.
Well, I can tell you it is indeed true. Now, some of these guys do retire and then promptly unretire once they see competition starts to ramp back up. You know, these guys are the truest form of competitor. It's hard to see
like Whiteout, pretty much.
People you know you can race against, and you're just watching them, and it's like, come on, I know I could be out there. I could put the beats on these fellas. It's just in your mind all the time. So I don't know how long he'll stay retired, but he definitely is going to be retiring at the end of this season. I can confirm that.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how GPL goes forward and just what the competition is going to be like next season as we go ahead and continue racing along here. I did hear some inklings of a potential new commentator also potentially getting involved starting next season. That is going to be a very interesting thing to see. We love hearing new commentators join the field. It is a potential. Still going to have to talk to them about it, and it's actually somebody I know pretty well. So they're just now getting into the Gran Turismo space, but it is somebody I've been mentoring on the Australian F1 scene for quite some time, for a couple of months now. So we'll see how they do if they do decide to jump in for GPL for next season.
Oh, yeah, Whiteout's closed all the way in now.
Yeah, he is, and championship on the line. It's for all the marbles. That medium tire is really fired up here, even more than I think I was expecting. Like, I was expecting if there was going to be a catch-up, it'd be towards the final, like, 3 laps or so. But on lap 53 out of 59, Whiteout staring down the barrel of a championship. The American driver has come back with a vengeance here against Adaptive Inc. This is going to be a fantastic run. He's going to move to the side. He's going to send it down here. And one hand on the championship trophy. But can he get the position to hold it? Viper on the inside, holding that inside line. Now it's going to be around the outside. For Whiteout, he's got it. He's got one hand on the championship already. So this is looking very, very tough. But Viper might have to do some fuel saving as we're down to the final 5 laps here of the Swiss GP, and this could be the end of the championship road here in the World Elite Championship here in Season 7. Oh, look at that gap. Holy gap. That is already to about almost a second.
Yes, it almost does seem like Whiteout kind of just being patient with his car, waiting for the right time to strike, waiting for just the moment he kind of feels like, okay, maybe Viper's tires won't be able to fight me back so easily now, and then making that move. Whiteout definitely knows when to be patient, when to push, when to attack, and a very lore-accurate move from Whiteout right at the end of the race to take P1 there, of course, with a championship on the line. Canonically, the greatest driver GPL has ever seen.
Yeah, and this is going to be an intense one here. 4 laps to go, and this could be the championship decided here. Unless Lucian can make up an 11-second gap here, or if Viper has a very unfortunate mishap, then you are looking at your Season 7 champion. Although granted, pens could still be a thing. Pens could drop drivers up and down the order, so even after this race, we can make our proclamations, and even then, a post-race penalty or so could actually keep the championship fight alive to Abu Dhabi, as it'll be the first time the Grand Prestige League hits the Middle East, as that is one of the new tracks that has been added to the Gran Turismo service. And actually, speaking of, I'm sure you saw the update that we're getting a lot of hypercars next update, so that is going to be absolutely peak.
Very kind of timing-wise, it's a little odd, and I was very surprised. I was not expecting to see that. I think we actually request specifically to see, I mean, I know I do, the Ferrari, the Cadillac, and the BMW. There's no Cadillac, but there's a lot of current active hypercars, one of which being the one I request all the time, the Ferrari. And, you know, when there's a certain very specific car that you want Gran Turismo to add, they just never do add it. So I'm very surprised to see them actually do that this time around, and I guarantee there will be many, many, many leagues around Gran Turismo switching over to this car, and or even new leagues starting up specifically for this new set of cars coming into the game.
DRA is already rubbing their hands together with absolute glee. The Discord Racing Alliance, one of the Actually, I think they're one of the top endurance racing leagues. I know Enduro GT is definitely gonna have a field day with those cars, because I know there's a lot of drivers here that also compete in Enduro GP or Enduro GT. I know
yeah, big shake-up there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny that we just did a LMP Master Series during the off season, but between last season and this season, so I wonder what the series is going to be like coming up. So
yeah, despite wanting to usually switch it up, I wouldn't be surprised if they ran it back just because there's a whole new set of cars, and the way that they did it, the regulations last time around, they made it so there was a certain number of uses per hypercar available, so everyone got to use every one of them. I wouldn't be surprised, since there's a whole new crop of cars coming, if they did something similar, but using only the new cars.
yeah, I mean, I've actually been wanting to see, like, you know how we have the SF500, or not the SF500, the F3500 and such. I wouldn't mind seeing like a pseudo, like, generic modern F1 car, like, say you could even use like the ground effect regulation or the 2026 cars, whichever one you'd want to use. I would like to see that. But anyways, penultimate lap here of the Grand Prix, and I'll let B23 take this one, and I'll take the final lap. Over to you.
Alright, well, we got big gaps now, so there's not too much to really go off of as they are going around, but looking up and down the field, we do have Alex, who has this whole entire time, ever since he pitted, been steadily catching up to Nuco, and that gap was well over 10 seconds when he came out of the pits. Now it's under 1 second, but his tires are starting to fall off. Nuco's has been falling off, and their mediums, so we're going to see if Alex can actually make a move there in the final lap of this race to make up one more position that he lost when he went into those pits. Whiteout now going around this final hairpin to then start the final lap of this race, which will be a championship winning lap of this race if he can just keep it on the track going forward. He's built up a massive 4-second gap now, and it's getting higher and higher. It actually looks like Viper might have made a mistake there, because that gap just exploded about over half a second in one corner, as a lapped car is actually kind of putting him under some pressure now.
It is the final lap of the Grand Prix, and it is going to be Adaptive Inc. now under pressure from F16 of all cars too. That's the two purple cars battling it out for a position.
Oh yeah, here goes Alex.
Which of the purple cars is going to reign on top. See what it did there, another music reference on the day. But he's going to make his way through the final couple of corners, and Nuco and Alex battling it out for position, and that's going to be the switchback for Alex to get the position. But the driver of the day, the driver who has fought tooth and nail, he took a sabbatical last season, and this season he has come back, bringing back a historic name in the Grand Prestige League. He brings back Spectre Acura Racing, but this team wasn't chasing any ghosts. They were chasing a championship, and they got one here, as Whiteout will become your Season 7 champion. Whiteout wins the Swiss Grand Prix and the Drivers' Championship to boot. Viper will come home in second, and Illusion will stake P2 in the Drivers' Championship for another season running. And that is the end of the Swiss Grand Prix here at the Grand Prestige League. Penultimate round of the season, and the championship has been mathematically decided. And it is going American. The Stars and Stripes on the day before Memorial Day. It is going to be Whiteout winning the World Championship.
Yeah, big congratulations to Whiteout, of course, doing what Whiteout does, which is winning races and championships. That is his natural habitat, is P1. Yuki to cross the line now, making him the final car to cross the line, and that is race over.
And your winner is that man right there, the new Season 7 World Elite Championship, World Elite Champion in whiteout. What a drive, what a season it has been, but we still have another round left to go here. We still got Abu Dhabi, which will just be for funsies at this point, although the Constructors Championship will still be up for grabs. Take a look at your race results here. It is going to be whiteout taking the victory alongside Viper. And then it is going to be Illusion, Alex, Nuko, King, Yuki, and ASJ. The Fighting Falcon rounding out the top 8. And then we have Dennis, Tallman, Rogue, and May JP, who got disconnected partway through the race. So that's going to be the end of things here. And that is a championship decided here. Will we see another championship decided next week for the Sprint World Tour? Well, you guys are just going to have to wait and find out. B23, any final thoughts before we go ahead and send this one sideways, or send this one off into the sunset?
Honestly, just final thoughts is a congrats to Whiteout. It's a well-earned, well-deserved victory and championship all season and every season that he has done so. And even the seasons that he's narrowly missed out, very deserving of championships even then as well. So excellent work to Whiteout.
Indeed, and that's going to go ahead and wrap things up here at the Grand Prestige League as the lobby's already closed, so that's a bit of a new record. But once again, I want to extend a congratulations to Whiteout for winning the championship here. It is a good return to form. Spectacular racing, still in the hunt for the Constructors title, so we'll just have to see how that one pans out. But once again, I want to give a massive thank you to everybody who has watched over the course of the season. We still got 3 more races left to go, though. We got the Sprint World Tour in Switzerland, and then we have the final showdown in the desert of Abu Dhabi. On behalf of W, use promo code GPL at w.gg for a 10% discount. And then on behalf of everybody at the admin team, on behalf of B23, on behalf of myself, my name is Patrick Coleman, aka Rekus, and we have been your hosts and commentators for tonight's action. Stay hydrated, and we'll see you guys next time when the Sprint World Tour makes another stop here in Switzerland. Have a good night.